comes as Nigeria's headline inflation rate jumped to 27.33% in October, and the International Monetary Fund (IMF) recently reviewed its economic growth projection of the country by 0.3 percentage points to 2.9% for 2023 because of weaker oil and gas production. Some analysts have cautioned against misconstruing the rise in GDP as a sign of overall economic health. Other experts urge dedicated commitment to the industrial sector, cautioning against viewing the service sector as superior and emphasizing the need for a balanced economic development strategy. These will form the crux of discussions as guests speak to the third quarter GDP report of 2023 shortly.
Thank you, Abdusalam, for that background report. And to discuss our first conversation on third quarter GDP figures, let me introduce Dr. Tokpe Fasua. He's the special advisor to the President on economic matters in the office of the Vice President. Dr. Fasua, you are welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
And congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
All right. Also joining us on today's conversation is Professor of Finance and Capital Market in Nasarawa State. I'm talking about Professor Uche Waleke. Prof, you're welcome once again to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thanks so much. Good morning, Nigerians.
Also with us this morning for the discussion is Yunusa Aliyu, an economist. Many thanks for joining us, sir.
Yeah, thank you and good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, let me throw the first question at Professor Uche. The third quarter GDP has witnessed a 2.5% growth. What factors are responsible for this growth, and how can it be sustained?
Yeah, I think the report was clear that the growth was driven primarily by the non-oil sector, growing at 2.75%. And if you also disaggregate that further, you will find that the services sector actually was in the lead by about 4%, that's 3.9%. But I have some concerns, and the first concern is the fact that that growth rate of 2.54% is still weak, because if you look at what we did in the first quarter of 2023, the GDP growth real GDP growth rate year on year, first quarter was 2.31. Second quarter, it came in at 2.51.
Okay.
Second quarter. Now, third quarter, 2.54. So, on the average, for the year, we have just done 2.45 on the average. And that's below population growth rate. So, as long as you are growing below population growth rate, which is estimated at 2.6, 2.7, you are not likely to have inclusive growth. Inclusive growth is the one that engenders jobs. Okay. So for us to be able to even do the 2.9 that the IMF is projecting for Nigeria for 2023, we need to do up to 4% in the fourth quarter. That is, we're already in the fourth quarter. So we need to do up to 4% for us to be able to do 2.9 on the average for 2023. So for me, that's the challenge there. But again, when you also look at the fact that the oil sector, improved in performance compared to the previous quarter, partly on account of improvement or increase in oil production. Oil production, grew from 1.22 million barrels per day for second quarter to 1.45 million barrels per day. So we are beginning to see improvement in oil production, and that is also impacting on GDP growth, because the oil sector actually grew by 0.85%. In the previous quarter, it was negative. It was minus 1.94. So we are beginning to see improvements in that sector. But overall, as I said earlier on, the growth rate is still weak. The second leg of the concern is even the quality of that growth. Now, when I say quality, I mean in terms of its capacity to bring about, again, inclusive growth, its capacity to reduce unemployment and engender jobs and reduce poverty. And that growth is skewed largely, as we had in the background report, in favor of services. Okay, and the employment elasticity of the services sector is, relatively low, because if you look at that services sector, it's actually the financial services sector that is driving it, because the financial services sector grew by, I think, 28%. So that is the sector powering it. So you now find that there's a disconnect between the services sector and the real sectors of the economy, the productive sectors, because the agri sector actually dropped, from 1.5 in Q2 to 1.3. Agri grew by just 1.3. Manufacturing sector is growing at 0.48%. So when you say agri sector, industry sector, these are the two, if you like, we say agri sector is the primary sector of the economy, industry sector is the secondary sector of the economy, services sector is the tertiary sector. So if you want to really, for developing economies really, the progression should be take care of your primary and secondary sectors, because that is where the jobs are. Okay, how many people gets employed in the services sector? No matter how, that's why I said some employment elasticity. So the point I'm making is that we should be concerned. The government should be concerned about the quality of the growth. So it's not just about growth, but what is the quality? We should pay more attention to the agri sector and the manufacturing sector, because these are the sectors that ultimately will, bring about inclusive growth, which I think this administration is, seeking to achieve.
All right, many thanks, Prof. Quickly get to Dr. Fashra now. You heard the opening comments by Professor Waleke. I'd like to just hear your thoughts about, the sluggish improvement, as far as the GDP is concerned. And then, do you have concerns like Prof just mentioned?
Well, thank you very much. You say sluggish. Remember that we're talking about inflation at 27.3%, and the GDP growth numbers you've seen, that's the real GDP growth, meaning that the GDP actually grew past that 20-something% for the last quarter, maybe not quite 27%, which is for last month, and then added a bit of 2.5% or thereabouts on top. So it looks a bit small, but it's perhaps not a small feat at the end of the day. And even in the year, according to what Professor Waleke said, this year what we've seen positive growth, 2.3% the first quarter, 2.4%, 2.5% in the third quarter, which is not too bad. However, we are also aware that what we're trying to achieve in government this time around is a total recalibration of the economy. And so the promise is to strive towards a double-digit growth rate, even in spite of inflation. It'll be good to be able to drive down inflation so that the real growth of the economy will come out. And I think that's what the central bank has committed to, as well as the fiscal authorities as well. So I want to believe that there's a lot more that's coming. If you look at the numbers that have just been released, even in terms of the oil sector itself has grown, which is usually not the case. Now daily production is about 1.4 million barrels, coming from 1.2 million barrels. There was a time it went below 1 million barrels. So I think that a little bit of patience, I will begin to see some of the promises that the government has made to the people of Nigeria. Like I said earlier on, what the government is trying to achieve is a total recalibration. We're trying to, when you see the very tough policies that the president has signed on to, from day one, the policy on fuel price deregulation has effect on the economy. Of course, has effect on inflation, makes it tougher to achieve growth, but it's something that needs to be done. The policy on the unification of the naira and the exchange rate, it's a little bit more difficult to pin down because the gap is still there. However, what the government has achieved is to have a singular market for the exchange rate, and that's what they call the NAFEM rate, which is rapidly traded every day, and everybody can have access to that market officially. Even though many people like to quote what's going on in the official market. The official market cannot be the concern of the government on a daily basis. The government said, listen, rather than have a different rate for custom, a different rate for travel agency, a different rate for this one, let everybody go to the NAFEM, which used to be called the I&E window. And I think that's the best we can achieve. Over time, structural reforms, as promised by the central bank governor just on Friday, will come into place. And we're going to be seeing some rapid reforms and reorganization of that sector in order to achieve higher growth. So, certainly, we deserve higher growth. Like I've always said for years now, the countries we like to compare ourselves to, even some of the biggest countries around the world, not talk of China that grew 15% back to back for more than 10 years. Imagine that. That's like doubling your economy every 4 years or so. Because we're talking about compounded, countries like the United States in the 50s, at some point they were growing at 15%, 12%, in the UK as well. So this government is perhaps going to be the first government to say, listen, we're moving out of that area of mediocrity where all we can achieve is 3%. Oh, if we achieve 6%, we feel like we're superstars. That's not good enough, because population is growing, we have things to do, we have infrastructure to build, we have aspirations for greatness, and we need to double our economy. And I would also hark back to what Professor Uche just said in terms of the primary, secondary, and tertiary economy. Yes, it takes a bit of. It was in 2014, after we rebased the GDP, that we found out that services actually then contributed 52% of the GDP, and that position has been held because Nigeria, we have our bankers, we have our good banks. Everybody, financial sector is driving that service really. It may not be sustainable, and it's something we need to quickly begin to tell ourselves, that we cannot call ourselves a tertiary economy, tertiary product economy, when we haven't fixed the primary and the secondary. Usually you would scale up. Even now, there are countries that are beyond the tertiary, quaternary products company, quinary products company. These are when you begin to talk of very tech things like artificial intelligence, policies around technology in the world. These are countries that are moving the entire world with the products that they manufacture and push, and the services they provide. So it's a clarion call that, look, whereas we've been able to post some level of positive growth in spite of inflation, still we need to go back to fixing the economy from the ground up. We are never going to be able to escape productivity. We're never going to be able to escape trying to provide the things we need, the basic thing, the food, the shelter, the clothing, what McGregor called the hygiene factors. And of course, for those who study sociology, talk about Maslow, those are the very basic stuff before we begin to scale up. We must, one way or the other. We are never going to be able to restrict trade, but we must find a way around that and then scale up from that point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fasua, for your thoughts there. Let me bring in Yunusa Aliyu. Yusha Aliyu. Okay, you are an economist. And one of the things that the president at the inauguration really expressed is optimism to revamp the economy. And one of the things, he's promised a 6% growth in the economy every year. And since he's been in the office now for just 6 months or thereabout, and we have seen a little bit of growth in the economy with this GDP. How do you think this can be sustained and improved on?
It is true that Mr. President has asserted possibly a 6% growth in GDP growth. But in any economy, you look at the basic assumptions made at the initials. There is an assumption in 2023 that the target GDP is just 2.7. There was also an assumption that the crude oil sales per barrel is stand at $75. So these are basic assumptions, and when you have basic assumptions, you look at your projection, especially as far as production is concerned. There was also projection as regards to inflation at the beginning of this year, and the projection was based on 17%. But what do we have today? So sometimes projections are very necessary as an instrument to assist the economy, to cater for good GDP. But at the same time, politicians also have mandate for us to give hope. Taking 6% GDP growth rate is a hope. And that hope can be achieved when you sustain good economic policies. Good economic policies, remember that in any point, if you are to succeed in economies, you have to know what you are doing, when you are doing, and how you are doing them. Dr. Tope rightly pointed out some basic policies like the deregulation of the industry. You have to look at the policy itself, the predicament of the policies, the prospect of the policies, and the target of the policies. He also spoke directly on, for instance, unification of the exchange rate, and also the reform that is being taken by the central bank presently. That also has to look at what, when, and how.
Okay.
What type of economy do we manage? Do we manage a digitalized economy? Do we manage digitalized consumers? Do we manage digitalized institutions? Do we manage an economy that is cash-based or dollar-based or any other base? So these are fundamental. But however, I have seen good intentions of Mr. President, especially in trying to boost the regulation policy. That is, if we have on ground Petroleum Industry Act and allows investors to come, then Mr. President has a mandate. What I saw in him is an attempt. For instance, his visit to Saudi Arabia to speak with the stakeholders and the intention to bring them to assess the capacity. This is a good intention, and we hope that it will be followed diligently to make sure that one of the problems that the economy is facing is taking out our exchange surplus to import refined PMS, whereas we produce crude oil and take crude oil to international market. We have the capacity. If Dangote, for instance, as an investor under the same deregulation policy, can produce 650,000 barrels per day, and can supply probably 50% of that production to this economy, then we need to fast track the existing refineries. And I have seen also, probably if Mr. President remain consistent in making sure that by December that 1 or 2 refineries are functioning, that will reduce the challenges we are facing in our forex. However, looking at the GDP as it is, it is of course not much important as far as to translate it to prosperity of individuals in the economy. But however, if you are living around Abuja, you take economic activity around June, July, and you compare them, this is direct. You understand that there is a lot of activities going on. Even the construction industry, you will see movement of heavy duty trucks to all corners of the city. And I'm not surprised to see that increase, but it has to be sustained. It has not to be limited to a geographical location. Once GDP of a nation is being experienced, it's not the GDP of a particular zone. It should be going around. And also there is a heavy job to Dr. Tope to coordinate states, because the federal government alone cannot translate that prosperity that we are hoping, or the president is hoping to achieve in the near future.
All right, many thanks, Mr. Yeshua Ali. Of course, so that's a very important point you have raised. The federal government alone cannot take us to, where we intend to be. Yes, the state governments must be brought in, and of course the local government must begin to function, just so that, we can begin to see growth. But I'd like to get to Prof now quickly. Looking at the figures and seeing that the services sector did, a great deal in the last quarter. I mean, a lot of people expected agriculture to, to be better, but we didn't see that happening. So are you surprised that we're having, a decline as far as agriculture is concerned, and then services sector seems to be doing great?
Well, the agri sector is challenged by a number of factors, one of which is insecurity. And let me also admit here that many of the challenges we are facing today are more or less legacy issues. These are issues that have been there, over a long time. So insecurity is a major factor, with the agri space. You also have the issues to do with low yields. You have issues to do with post-harvest losses. You have issues to do with even infrastructure. Transportation, for example, moving from the farm to the market. If you also check these numbers are even tied, because if you check the transport sector, also declined, or rather, it grew by minus 35%. So, and although it was an improvement over what we had in the previous quarter. So when you have this challenge in the transport sector, you should also expect that it will rub off somehow on the performance in the agri space. So I think I've always argued that for me it is a silver bullet, what I consider a silver bullet, to even address the twin problems we have in this country, or the major challenge we have in this country today, which I see as stagflation. Stagflation is a major challenge, not just inflation. What is stagflation? You have a situation in which the economy is not growing, at a very strong rate, and you also have rising inflation. So that's stagflation. Now, stagflation. Yes.
Okay.
So how do you deal with stagflation? Stagflation will involve both the fiscal authority and the monetary authority, coming together to understand themselves, which is why I'm happy with what is happening now. That appears to be happening now. A handshake between the fiscal and the monetary, authorities is getting stronger and firmer, and I see a lot of, hope in the months ahead. So again, coming back to the agri sector, I said I see it as a silver bullet. If you deal with the agri challenge today, and you grow at the agri sector, remember this is a sector that contributes. The last GDP report, it contributed 29% to GDP, the agri sector. So imagine if agri sector was growing in at the rate of, say, 7, 8, double digits even. It will make a whole lot of difference, because number one, as I said earlier on, that is where the jobs are. Majority of our people are employed in agriculture, okay, and it will go a long way to reduce the inflation rate, because the inflationary pressure we are experiencing today is caused more by the food component. MBS says average inflation rate is 27.3%. That's the average. But the food component of that is 31%. In some states, like Kogi State, they recorded it at 41%, food inflation. So the moment you deal with food inflation in Nigeria today, you will see inflation rate will come down. That's why I said the best way to address inflation is to look at the numbers, the evidence that we have. And what does that evidence say? Food inflation is where the problem is. So how do you deal with food inflation? Again, the land, agriculture. And when I say the land, I'm talking about the entire value chain, not just the primary thing. Okay? So deal with insecurity. Okay? That will also, on the side of the GDP, increase agri GDP. As you're dealing with inflation, you're also increasing the GDP growth. You're also increasing, job opportunities, because a lot more people are employed. So you can see that for me is a silver bullet. You're increasing GDP, and you're also lowering inflation just by dealing with agriculture. The same thing with manufacturing. The productive base of the economy. Okay, and that also speaks to, again, ensuring that people that are playing in that space have access to credit. All right, so there should be access to credit. There should be a deliberate effort to grow agriculture. Now, in the past, we had this. I've been wondering what became of the Green Imperative program. We had the Green Imperative program under the last administration. In February 2021, we read that the government then had secured a loan of $1.2 billion from the Development Bank of Brazil. $1.2 billion. That was in February 2021. Okay, to be used to mechanize agriculture and have agro-processors all over the country. So I don't know what has become of that project. Okay, so I think that And I'm sure the government is also thinking in that direction to ensure that the agri sector is given a lot of attention, because I think that is what will really lift a lot of people. If you're talking of lifting people out of poverty, okay, the president is talking about a $1 trillion economy within the next
6-7 years.
Yes, I share in that dream. I believe it's possible, okay, but we have to really tackle it from this basis, agri manufacturing, which is also why I think one of the things we should be doing in that agri space, okay, is also to look at research. Okay, government should be able to also fund research in agriculture. Students who are going in to study agri should be encouraged. They should be given scholarships and so on. That way, in the next few years, okay, you're able to improve the productivity.
Yeah, Prof. Thank you for your thoughts there. But earlier on you said that the GDP growth is lagging behind the population growth. So what can be done at least to bridge that gap, to turn things around? Yes. Is it the same thing? Is it the same thing that should be done?
Yes. You look at as I said, let's work with the evidence. Look at the numbers.
Okay.
Okay. The services sector is growing 3.9%, and as I said, even if today again the central bank governor is talking about recapitalizing banks.
Okay.
Okay. Now the banks become big. Okay. At the end of the day, you may end up banks may end up now playing more in the forex market, for example, and also having more of their income coming from non-interest sources. Okay, of course you will record growth, but again it doesn't speak to the real traditional function of banking, which is financial intermediation. A bank should be able to mobilize funds from surplus units and channel to deficit units. Okay, so the disconnect we find today is, in my view, because that financial intermediation is not happening as much as you should. Okay, the real sector is not having access to credit. Okay, and that's why the focus of some of these banks appear to be on forex. And appear to be on income from other investments that are
okay, Prof. Let me bring in Dr. Fasua in now, being the special advisor to the president on economic matters. From the conversations from our two guests, one of the things they suggested is the tinkering, the changing of government fiscal policy, both fiscal and monetary policy, for it to be able to achieve, its goal. What is your thought on that?
Well, thank you very much. A lot has been said about fiscal and monetary policy and the need for the two of them to collaborate and to see each other, to synergize, okay? Because synergy is when 1 + 1 is equal to 3 or 4 and not 2. And I think that's really going on. Mr. Wale Edun heads up the fiscal sector. Mr. Cardozo heads up the monetary sector. They've worked together for long. And each of them have also promised to stick to their remit. To say, listen, central bank, inflation targeting, bank, financial sector management, like Prof just said, they've given a marching order almost already to the banks to go and recapitalize. But recapitalize for what? So like he said, yes, the idea is that the recapitalization must be geared towards incentivizing the real sector, lending money to where it matters, starting with agri, like I said before, the basic items, food, shelter, clothing. So food, let me look very quickly at agri, which is the food sector. And not only food sector, there's also the cash crops. If you look at Nigeria's export profile today, our biggest export, of course, is crude oil and gas. Sometimes we export about $1 billion worth of fertilizers. The crude oil and gas, we export about $47 billion, okay, every year. However, I always quickly tell a lot of people that most of that money is not ours, because they're just talking about what is extracted from Nigeria and sold abroad. The international oil companies own about 70% of that money, because they are the ones that help us. It's either we're doing joint venture or we're doing product sharing contracts. So when you look at those contracts, and then when you take out the cost of our own infrastructure, like You need to run your NMPC, NMDPRA, and all of that. You need to run from the proceeds of what comes out. And of course, the LLNG is doing well, but recently, there's been a bit of a slowdown in the last few years, which I believe they'll be able to get back on track. So, but if you look at our exports, after the crude oil and gas, the fertilizer, the occasional export of, sometimes we export ships and airplanes, but we don't manufacture them here. So maybe it's some sort of transshipment going on, maybe $1 billion, $1.5 billion worth. The next thing you find is cocoa at about $600 to $700 million. And then you have oil seeds like sesame seeds, groundnuts, and all of that coming in about $500 million. Okay, and then it begins to taper down. Most of what we export are cash crops, indeed. Though if you look at the import side, you'll be scared because our biggest import is petrol and diesel and AGO and jet fuel, all of those things. Bringing about $16 billion to $20 billion worth of those every year, which is where what Prof said earlier on, if the refineries could work, that would be great, and I believe that we're working on that. If Dangote would start today and actually supply, Mr. Yusha said it, if he would actually supply half of his product to within Nigeria, that would save us almost $20 billion. And therefore, if we have saved that amount of money, even if we have saved $10 billion, that is enough dollars to intervene in all the other things that we need. But minding the fact that we're still very much import intensive, which is not healthy for any economy. And I would personally want to say that we shouldn't take all these things for granted. Yes, people say we are running an open market economy today, and people say, look, if it's my right if I want to hold the dollar, if I want to keep all my money in the dollar. There's one guy that just won presidency in Argentina who intends to totally dollarize Argentina and I'm wondering how the person in the village in Argentina whose salary is maybe the equivalent of $5 in a month or less, or a lot less, because the biggest currency in Argentina is $0.3. Is equivalent to not even one up to $1. I think that's 40,000. What's their currency called now? So we have to be careful not to assume that we could have endless access to dollar. At that point, I think government may have to use moral suasion rather than restriction, because restriction has not helped. The more you restrict, the more people. I know that there are a lot of people in this country, they collect their salary and they change
to dollar.
80% of it to dollar, which we have to be very careful and go and study the Argentinian experience, because this thing that the new man, Milei, is trying to do, Javier Milei, is trying to do, is born out of
So how
anger.
do we discourage that?
Yes, yes, we are getting together. So it's born out of several years of anger at the management of the economy and, of course, the high inflation. So we are 27%. Argentina is about 160-something% inflation. So we're not doing too badly, but we could do a lot better as well. We don't want to join those people. We don't want to use them as our experience. Turkey is doing about 40% inflation or 60% inflation. Egypt's 40%. Lebanon 200 and something %. We don't want to join all of those people. I think we want to stay normal. We want to be able to drive down inflation to single digits, let's say 9%. Even if we could do 11-12%, it won't be a bad idea over time. And the central bank has assured that in the next 2 quarters we'll begin to see those. So we're talking about monetary and fiscal policy, and I've just gone down that route to show you the kind of predicament we have, which all of us have to work towards. Every Nigerian, it's not just a government, it's not just a federal government thing, is also a state government issue. Professor Waleke mentioned food inflation, 31.5% in the last month. That's the number that came out. 41% in places like Kogi State. If we look at that sector alone, food, okay, we'll realize that there are a lot of middlemen playing there. Commodity boards are now bulk purchasers of some commodity boards, the bulk purchasers of food items. And in some places in Nigeria, there are new, call them fintechs and whatever, what they do, they go to the farm, they purchase in bulk to distribute to market women. And we're suspecting that the increases in the prices may be coming from those middlemen, because the farmers are not gaining more. In fact, you remember the last administration, there was a law about how much you can purchase from the farm gate. Because you can't say, look, I'm a big man, I get to the farm gate of a farmer, it's harvest season. I say, my friend, let me give you 100,000 for all of your goods. The man is happy to see 100,000. But he has worked for 9 months to be able to get that 100,000. How does he survive? So they try to put that law in place, and I think it's a great law. And I believe that the current government, we are also looking at that law to continue. But a lot is happening in the agri sector already. Just last week, the Minister of Agri mentioned that about 250,000 farmers are going to be incentivized on wheat. You know, I was talking about our export. I told you there are 2 key exports, oil and gas and fertilizer. And on this other side, we have oil and gas for imports. Is one of our biggest, it's our biggest import. Then you have things like wheat. On wheat alone, we spend more than $5 billion every year. $5 billion on wheat alone. Not talk of things like pharmaceutical. You know, pharmaceuticals, we spend about $3 billion every year. We spend about $1 billion to $1.5 billion every year. That's why we're one of the biggest customers to Norway. This Oporoko that they bring, the stockfish. Apart from other kinds of fishes that we bring. Milk, we spend about $1 billion on milk. Sugar, we spend $1.5 billion on sugar. So, see, well, we should tell ourselves the real truth, and Nigerians should know. A government is not the only entity that builds a country. A people will decide that we love our country, we need our country, and therefore we're going to build it together. And I believe that that's the direction we are going in government. It's still a bit early, 6 months down the line, but of course, we live in a supersonic world, so everybody needs to be running at very, very high speed, you know, and we are also ready to run at that high speed. Once some of these issues have been taken out of the way, the politics has been shelved now, focus is on the economy, and that growth has to be inclusive. The government, the federal government will do its own, but the state governments are the ones that will go down to the farm units and make sure that those farmers are not being cheated, that those middlemen are not playing games with food prices. It's active. And if they do that, that means that they'll be employing more people in their ministries to do that legwork. That means that we're going to be looking at bringing up those rural areas that have been abandoned. The other time I traveled from Kaba to Abuja to come out to Lokoja there, and that time the Dangote road hadn't been finished. I don't know whether it's been finished now. But what I saw was a lot of women with their plantain and yams on the roadside, but I was perhaps the one of 2 cars that passed that road that day. I only saw 1 car coming the other way. I shouldn't have passed there. I mean, a few years back now, but you know, and I saw how local economies and rural economies collapse, because if we are not passing through there because of insecurity, we fly over all of those places. In time past, you're going from here to Lagos, you'd have gone by road, stop at Lokoja, eat some food. You know, if you may start to even sleep there, move forward, maybe stop at Benin. That's local economy. You know, you have passed the below, pass this one, pass that one, but now we fly over them. So I think, well, and I'll close with this. Our key challenge, and which we are working on already, is how to integrate those local economy, because we believe that it is in those rural areas that the next spike of growth for Nigeria will come. And we have neglected them for too long over time. This government is putting emphasis on that. I told you the wheat farmers, 250,000 of them are being incentivized. We want to see how much of that wheat import of $4 billion that we can cover. Even if we can save ourselves $2 billion there, that won't be a bad idea. Luckily for us, this year we haven't seen so much flood. Okay, unlike last year. Remember, last year was disastrous, as was 2012. In the entire Kebbi region, a lot of the rice disappeared. So hopefully this year, the yields are already better this year, and perhaps they'll even get even much better. So agri is coming up, and of course things like
dry season farming that the minister
exactly, that's another thing that's been provided for in the supplementary budget. So we're also targeting reducing post-harvest losses, you know, across the board in places like Benue, in places like Kogi and Co, where the food basket, the fruits and all of that in this country.
But the issue of security is germane, actually.
Yes, equally, you see that security situation has sort of improved. You know, where we have the flashpoint these days is still around northwest Zamfara area. We still have a few kidnappings going on.
All right.
It's reducing, and I believe that the security services are actually doing their job even a lot better than before.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fashua. Of course, you were talking about the Argentine peso earlier,
Yes,
when you were talking
peso.
about the currency of Argentina and how we're doing, and how the dollar can also affect them negatively there, just as it is affecting us in Nigeria. Yes, I agree with your thoughts. When you talked about, I'm sure a lot of Nigerians agree too, that the local economy, needs to be improved. Just so we can, scale up as far as our economy is concerned. But I want to get your thoughts, Mr. Liu. Dr. Fashua is in government, is a special advisor. So he's likely going to tell us what government intends to do and all of that. And as far as he's part of the team, that's what they think is the right way to move the economy forward. But you are outside as a Nigerian and as an economist, and then you have watched our economy, for a very long time. So do you think that the direction of government is the way to go? Because when the president came on board at his inauguration, he talked about a 6% growth every year. It's 6 months down the line now. The direction that the government is turning, do you really think that would bring the kind of growth that we want to see?
From what is on ground presently, especially in tackling inflation, there is much to be done. Possibly, you have to allow income grouping with their incomes for GDP to grow, because the GDP encompasses the value, monetary value of transaction that is taking place, and that value has to go also with the purchasing power and also the confidence of the consumers. However, we have pointed out several challenges which are real, and it is real. But also I have to attest to what Mr. Paswa has attested, that security has improved. Some of us who are flying Abuja, Kaduna for a very long period now, the road is safe, goods can move, individuals can move. But unfortunately around Kogi axis, one of the reasons that there is high inflation in Kogi is that there is no networking, road network, the connectivity of the market where you bring these goods. The production thus is kept outside the consumption zone. So therefore, prices are challenged because market is challenged. That is one. Second, we also have to look at not only tackling inflation as it is, but the measures taken by the bank. The bank, I am happy that technically the bank has halted their intervention on MPR, monetary policy rate, for a month or 2 months now, which is also helpful, because if you are to, most of my argument with regard to the raising of MPR is in line with, is the central bank aware that the total liquidity that is outside the economy and that is within the financial institution, and that brought about currency redesign. And I'm happy that the bank has taken a right measure to bring confidence to consumers to make use of the currency. But that can only be sustained if the bank remain with a good policy of educating people on how best you use this currency. Recently, we have discovered that there is cash crunch in most of the banks, and that this is not good for any GDP to achieve the target. That is why I said in the beginning, understand the nature of the market. Cash base, yes, of course. Nigeria is a cash-based economy.
Yeah.
If you go to Eastern Nigeria, where market days are marked, you realize that all these villages, first of all, are carved out, the market are carved out, and they need currency to transact. If you go to KB area, you don't allow them without cash. You don't allow them to make use of other people's currency within the same geographical location called Nigeria. And also we, the elite, we have to also check our excesses, because W.W. Rostow, who is a proponent as a developmental economist, asserted that until we check our attitude, we change this to positive, We cannot be keeping this rate. An individual who is earning salary in Naira will choose to do you understand? Translate that same currency to other currencies in the same economy, and you expect economy to change.
And there are some businesses that run in Nigeria, they expect you to pay in dollars.
Yes, and the worst part is taking taxes in dollars. It's very wrong. So these are the things that we have to attitudinally adjust ourselves. That is one. Second, we also have to check this insecurity, because before now, this insecurity has challenged the production zone, and that is why you find food inflation. How can you allow some individuals to hijack farmlands and drive away farmers? And you are calling investors to come and invest. There was a policy under past administration of creating special economic zones. This administration must do something on that, because we are distributed spatially and with different opportunities. And if you encourage investors, but with protection, this will help the GDP growth. Take a look of the entire Nigeria, 36 states, 774 local government, 6 geopolitical zones. You find, like he rightly pointed out, Dr. Fashwa, you find cocoa on the list. You find groundnut on the list. In the 1960s, they are topping the list. Why now we are not topping the list in terms of export? Because these products are required in the international market. But what are the incentives that need to be put on ground? These economic zones will help us to widen the scope and then put the right investment, especially that today you find efficiency in agriculture because a farmer can easily be educated online. People are ready to learn online. People are ready to transact online. And this can facilitate all the market. So, but in general, bottlenecks, supply bottlenecks cannot be achieved until when we check other policies that we have used, which I strongly disagree. For the fact that you check the population side, you check the consumption side, you check the price, the income group, you also check what is the maximum quantity of good that is required by the market, because what is causing inflation is a lot of factors. One of the main factors is that once the effective demand is greater than the supply in the market, there is going to be a problem. And he rightly pointed out that there are certain individuals in between producers and the market. That has to be dealt with. Second, we have to also check the capacity that we are looking for.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Yeshua, for your thoughts there. Let me bring in Professor Uche to the conversation again. You know, one thing I notice is that the world is gradually changing from the use of petrol to electric vehicles and all that stuff. And our GDP is mainly based on oil production. So what happens when the world switches to this? What happens to our economy? What advice would you give?
If you permit me, before I answer that question, let me weigh in on the question that she asked, whether the government is moving in the right direction. I think that was the question you asked him. I think my view is yes. It's yes in the sense that if you look at the major challenge the government inherited, that has to do with revenue. Okay. It's even because of revenue that we are having this huge debt burden. Debt service to revenue, is very high, partly because the denominator is revenue. Okay. And the government so far, has been working on that denominator, trying to shore up revenue. That's why the target is to move the revenue to GDP ratio from about 8% to 18%. The reason the government even set up the presidential committee on fiscal policy and tax reforms, and I know that committee is working, and I'm optimistic by the end of their work, their assignment, this issue of tax to GDP ratio, okay, would have significantly improved, not necessarily by increasing the tax rates, but by widening the tax base. I'm also aware that a lot of effort is going on in the area of streamlining taxes, and they're creating a favorable business environment, because that is also key if we must grow GDP.
Just
Because
like
if you don't have a favorable business climate, especially in relation to taxes, for example, you're unlikely to attract even foreign investments.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think these are moves in the right direction. Now, on the monetary side, I also see the attempt to again boost supply of forex, and with a view to clearing backlog of forex commitment. Because if you don't clear the backlogs, you don't bring confidence in the forex market, which is why the priority of the central bank, in my view now, in relation to the forex market, is to first of all bring confidence in that market, which is why we hear they want to get some dollars to at least calm the market and bring about some sense of stability. So I think those are positive moves. But what I am yet to see, especially in the area of the forex market, is the emphasis on the demand side. The government appears to be focusing on the supply side, with little attention on the demand side. So what do I expect to see on the demand side? It is measures, that will aim to reduce the pressure, the demand pressure on the in the forex market. Because even when you bring the supply, you succeed in bringing the supply, and you have not reduced the demand, the problem will still be there. Okay, and what can the government do to reduce the demand? In my view, I have suggested that one thing the government can do is to have a law, a Buy Nigerian law. We don't have a Buy Nigerian law. In the US today, there is what is called Build America, Buy America Act of 2021. Okay, what that law does, that kind of law does, is to compel, especially every procurement that has to do with taxpayers' money, to be sourced, locally.
Prof, because of time,
yes.
I'm sorry to interject you. Because of time, you need to just wrap up your
oh yes,
your
that's there should be a Buy Nigerian law. And then to your question, yes, why we have an eye on non-fossil investments.
Yeah.
We can't also say we can't also abandon the oil sector. We need money from the oil sector to develop those other sectors. And whether we like it or not, this oil is going to be around for quite some time, despite the fact that we have electric vehicles. It's going to be around for quite some time. That's why we have to continue to make investments in that sector, because we need money from that sector. As I said, this is the time to now optimize whatever we can from that sector to be able to invest in this non-fossil.
All right, many thanks, Prof. Because of time, we need to wrap up now. So just in 30 seconds, Dr. Fashua, I'd like you to respond to the comment by Prof. He was talking about Build Nigeria and Buy Nigeria kind of law. But the challenge with that, or why I'm asking you, is because we get to see average Nigerians actually buying Nigeria. But the problem is with the elite and even those with government. So what do you think can be done in that regard? And then, if you were to forecast the fourth quarter, which is we'll round up next month, what do you think we'll see?
I'll start with the last question. I think that we're going to begin to see much increased growth rates going forward as a lot of the policies come into place. And like I said before, we're lucky this year. Agric is going to do very well. Crude oil sector is going to do very well. Even gas. You know that Nigeria is actually a gas country with a little bit of oil. That's what we are. We have hundreds of trillions of cubic meters of gas in this country. And the president is very keen on that. That's why we're building this pipeline through Nigeria. It's slowed down now, but we're going to come back to it at some point in time. So I can only see positivism and hope going forward. Hopefully we'll be able to get to 5%, and by next year we should be looking at 6-7% and going forward. The promises will be kept. Regarding the Baba Act, I like that. Build America, Buy America, whatever. So fantastic. Well, perhaps we'll push that to the legislators, and all of us are guilty in one way or the other. Even the Ankara you are wearing is probably made in China.
No, mine is Nigeria.
Sewn in Nigeria.
No,
but again,
No, but how do
like
we
I said
encourage
before, we
local
cannot-
production because
we
of this
cannot
influx
escape.
of all these foreign materials?
Indeed, yes.
Because-
There's activity going on in the National Assembly right now
Okay.
regarding that aspect.
protect
But you see,
our local
remember that we
industries.
have our sister in World Trade Organization. We cannot be seen to be banning any product coming into Nigeria. But we can use tariff measures. We can find other clever ways of making it more difficult. But one thing we cannot escape is that we cannot escape producing for ourselves the basics we need. I'm even okay if you look at the car manufacturing industry. Somebody was saying yesterday, Innocent, whatever, all they do is assemble. I said, at least they're employing thousands of Nigerians. Let's even start with that assembly and then scale up, and then one day we'll do the one that all of us, but most car companies around the world, what they do is assemble. They'll get, the car seats are coming from Brazil, the engine is coming from Japan, this one is coming from there. They put it, it's called the global value chain. And I think that we're going to play a lot more role in the global
Thank you
value
so
chain.
much, Dr. Fasua, for coming on the Good Morning Nigeria
Thank you
this
very
morning.
much.
And thank you so much for your thought. I also want to thank Mr. Yeshua Aliyu. Thank you very much for coming. And Prof, as usual, we thank you for coming for Good Morning Nigeria. We'll now take a break. Good Morning Nigeria continues shortly. Stay with us. Yeah, welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Good Morning Nigeria coming to you on the network service of the NTA. Now to our second conversation for this morning. Reward is a vital incentive for progress within any group. This has been acknowledged by All Progressives Congress, APC, as it introduces new ways of rewarding its members. We'll be taking a look at the party's reward system in our second conversation.
And joining us now to speak on the reward system in the All Progressives Congress is Dr. Tom Ohikere, Chairman, National Organizing Committee of the All Progressives Congress Leaders Merit Award. Many thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Demola. Thanks, Yere. It's nice meeting you this morning.
Same here, and of course, let's just begin by asking you, what is this merit award, for the All Progressives Congress all about? Or if you like, the reward system.
Reward system in any organization is usually meant to promote performance. But in this case of the All Progressive Congress, reward system to us is meant to boost the outcome and output of the party in governance. Since the inception of the party in government since 2015, there has not been any deliberate or conscious effort to recognize and reward the party faithfuls who have made contributions to the party. APC is blessed with so many great Nigerians with exemplary contribution to the party and national development. Since the inception of the party, they've all been doing their best for the growth and development of the party, but they are yet to be recognized. This reward system we are introducing resonates with the fact that there are very limited opportunities for elective and appointed positions in the APC. The available opportunities is even below 3% of the population of the major contributors to the party. What it means is that the party should start looking for an alternative, a complementary way to reward these other people that are left out of the opportunities. So we feel the party should even give gratitude, accolade, thank you, to tell people thank you our
Is it
members.
just thank you, or is it that they should be giving gifts, appointments?
Yeah,
What
yes.
exactly? When you say
Yes. I've told you something. There is a very limited opportunities for appointment and the elective positions. So we should look for other ways of giving gratitude to the major contributors to the party, the victory of the party. Some of us need even just ordinary thank you, ordinary being mentioned. You know, so this particular system we are introducing is a complementary measure for giving gratitude to some of the people that have contributed to the growth and development of the party. We are looking at the possibility of putting in place a systematic line of indicators that will bring out the desired result. Since we commenced the process of this reward system, we've been able to identify support groups that assisted the party, some individuals that assisted in both tangible and intangible terms at the state level. We've been able to identify major stakeholders nationally who contributed to the development and growth of the party, particularly our success at the last election. We have put up these things, and as we make progress, I will tell you more of it.
Okay, I want to ask Dr. Tom, when you say you are going to reward,
yes, sir.
What are you looking at for you to reward? What I mean is, what are the criteria that you are going to use to be able to identify that this person or this group of people are worthy to benefit from the reward system?
The criteria,
and how do you intend to, answer that.
The criteria is just about performance.
Performance in what way? Like, is it that maybe in your word you were able to get more people to vote?
No, I will go to that. I will go to that.
Or, you know,
I will go to that. We have different categories of the award. We have the State Impact Award. State Impact Award, that's for the governors. We have the Support Groups Impact Award for support groups who made immeasurable contribution to the victory of the party. We have Lifetime Achievement Award for the founding fathers of the party. They went through the tribulations and the trial periods of setting up the party, of establishing it, to get it to the stage where it is. We have a Diaspora Support Award for our groups in diaspora that have assisted the party. We have individuals at state level. That is the pillars of the party at all states in the federation. We have people who have actually contributed tremendously to make the party stand in their state. For example, in Kogi State, the role of Prince Abubakar in setting up, I'm from Kogi, so I'm situating where I'm. The role of Prince Abubakar in the growth, in the foundation of the party in my state is immeasurable. You know, we have people like that. We have posthumous award. We have an award for milestones and legacy projects.
So what measures have been put in place to ensure that the right people are the ones who are being awarded, and then there's no favoritism again in this whole process? There's no, I mean, what measures?
Well, I think what we have put in place, first we started with what they call need assessment. Need assessment. Towards bringing it to where we are now, establishing it, we had need assessment. We developed a core concept note of the program. We followed it up with administrative support, generating administrative support, the APC national headquarters, and we are now at experimenting it, which is we are coming up with the first program. After which we go to expansion and then consolidation. All we have done is we have the systematic approach, which is more or less in form of when you say life cycle of human beings, life cycle of product, life cycle. We have gone through it scientifically, and it has proven to be bringing results for us. That's why we are here today. And the party has been so supportive. And then for us to be able to achieve the desired result, we had what they call, we administered questionnaire in state.
Okay.
The support groups administered questionnaires. We also went on random opinion survey, media survey. We went through the media across the state to be able to generate the desired result, to be able to be able to get the specific award to specific purpose for specific people. For example, now we discovered that APC had made huge impact across the country since 2015 in the state and local government, but yet to be celebrated.
Okay.
I took my time to go through the country. The NTA can bear me witness. I went through this country. I dedicated 4 months to go through this country, visiting facilities, provisions by APC government, and we have a good understanding,
Okay.
all-hand experience.
Okay,
to be
Dr.
able to
Tom.
do it.
Dr.
Okay.
Tom.
Yeah.
Let me just find out this award. When are you starting, and how often will you be giving out these awards to the beneficiaries? Is it going to be an annual event, or it's going to be like quarterly, or as you identify people that are worthy of the award, that is when you are going to do it?
No, we are going to formally establish it in a way that the whole world will know when, at what point the award will be held. We intend the award is held annually. Annually, like a 2-3 days program, where, because if you want to give an award to states, for example, personalities per two personalities per state, that's about 60-something persons for the award.
That's
It consumes time.
70
It
something.
will consume time. So that award alone is for, if we're talking about rewarding support groups, we have over 10,000 support groups in APC. We have only identified 20 for this purpose. For the purpose of the experimentation, we have only identified 20. So if you are really to do it, if we really want to organize award for support groups, it takes a whole day. So we are still going into the processes of identifying how best to achieve this.
Now, you said you hope it will be annual.
Yeah.
How do you intend to, institutionalize this award? Because I'm thinking now it's about the party. So, assuming the party seems to have the hems of affairs in a particular state, or maybe even at the federal level, will this reward system still continue? So, how do you intend to ensure that it's something that stays as long as the party APC still exists?
Once it's fully established, it will stay. There's a difference between citing a project and establishing a project. That's why we're going through this approach I've given you. We have gone through, if you don't understand, let me put it, we have gone through what I call face-to-face planning. We left the incubation period.
So, irrespective of whether the party is in power or not?
Wait. There's no time APC will not be in power in one state or the other. PDP is still here. There are even some solar parties here. We'll continue to exist. And from the look of things, we will continue to exist for a very long time to come. If we continue with what we are doing, we'll continue to exist. What we are doing now is to consolidate our hold on the ground. This award system is to consolidate our hold on the ground. So, and many things will still be coming up. So, we'll continue to exist. So, for it to institutionalize it, to make it stay in the mind of the people, to make it stay within the system, we have gone through what they call need assessment, concept drawing, and then we're going into experimentation. We're taking it stage by stage, professionally. We're not just jumping into the air, organizing our award ceremony, and this. We're planning. By the time we get to the stage of growth, we're going to expand it properly, that it will be an institution of its own within the party.
Okay.
And it's first of its kind in the country.
What message do you have for APC members, for them to cash in on this opportunity to benefit from this award? And okay, finish that, then I'll follow up. On
the message is simple. We call for the support of all and sundry within the APC. We call for the support of the media, support of all Nigerians, for the we call for their support towards the overall growth and development of this award system. We are presently at the stage of experimentation, and we intend to go into a full-blown program by February next year, when the party will be celebrating its 10th year in progress, and we still have so many other programs. But for now, we call for the prayer, blessing, and understanding of all.
And then to Nigerians, what would you want to say as regards...
Nigerians should expect the best from the APC as we start the process of consolidating on the emanating gains from the party.
Is it some people say maybe this could be a way of settling some party members that are not really that felt that they have been left out of governance despite their contribution, to the emergency or to the emergence of the party both at the national, local, and state level.
It seems funny. It's not even a good thing to be left out in such a development. So if there is any way the party can even identify people that are left out and bringing them closer, it's the best for all. It's not good to be left out. Even mere mentioning of, let me use myself as an example. I've been running the APC News Online for the past years. I've not taken 10 kobo from the party. And I'm so delighted. I'm always happy to be rendering my service. I have an office in Barcelona Hotel.
Okay.
I pay for the office. Are you getting it? Some of us are party men. I just need thank you. I just need recognition from leadership.
All right.
To thank me that Tom Ohikere, you have been trying.
This reward system will definitely give.
The reward system will give such opportunity to so many people. Where the party will thank them.
And it will make them do more for the party.
No. It is pure. It is pure more performance. It is pure competitive competition within the leadership of the party. It will project the party properly, give it the places.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Tom Ohikere, for joining us, Chairman, National Organizing Committee of the APC Leaders Merit Award. We wish you all the best, and of course, we look forward to the first ceremony and how it goes down. Thank you. So at this point, we'll take some stories from the foreign scene.
Sierra Leone's President Julius Maada Bio declared a nationwide curfew on Sunday after gunmen attacked the military's main and largest barracks in the West African nation's capital, raising fears of a breakdown of order amid a surge of coups in the region. The unidentified gunmen attacked the military armory within the Wilberforce barracks in the capital, Freetown, but the country's Ministry of Information and Education says the government and security forces are in control of the situation. No details have been immediately given about the gunmen or the reason for the attack. Videos online that went viral reportedly showed soldiers patrolling Freetown's empty streets and captured the loud blast of gunshots. West Africa's Regional Economic Bloc, ECOWAS, described the incident as a plot to acquire arms and disturb the peace and constitutional order in the country. ECOWAS reiterates its zero tolerance for unconstitutional change of government. Hamas has expressed willingness to extend the 4-day truce, but only when Israel agrees to release more Palestinians, according to a statement from Hamas on Sunday. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israel is open to truce extension during his phone talk with U.S. President Joe Biden, adding that the Israeli Defense Forces will resume military operations immediately after the truce ends. The overall situation in the Gaza Strip has remained relatively calm, with sporadic clashes erupting between Palestinians and Israeli troops at different places of the West Bank and Gaza. The Palestinian Red Crescent Society stated that prior to the release of Palestinian detainees on Sunday, the Israeli military had thrown tear gas and opened fire on Palestinians who had gathered in Beitunia, located in the West Bank, causing injuries to 3 individuals.
And now it's time for sports news.